Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Barbarian, this is Crusader Kings 2 and this is the last episode of the Grand Journey. Today we're just going to walk through what the world of 1452 looks like. We're going to take a look at all the rulers that we have had, and of course we are also going to take a look at the EU4 conversion, although that one is, this entire thing to me is probably the most infuriating save that I have ever had, because with the settings that we started and with all the journey that we had throughout the world, this is probably the single save that has the most story attached to it for me personally. And even the outcome that we have after 100 years of me just sitting here in Sardinia and Corsica is incredibly rich in flavor, in story, in, everything, in lore, in all of that stuff going on there, but all of it is, of course, entirely unusable because the converter, and honestly, you can't expect this from a converter or anything else. I tried the fan-made converter as well, it just doesn't work well. It never translates into something that, it should be. Let me guide you through the world and tell you why I'm so frustrated that this isn't a readily available scenario for EU4. This is entirely exciting as far as I'm concerned when it comes to, what the world actually looks like. So, what are we looking at here? Let's start with England, because of course we had all of this under control, right? It was all unified, we were all in a pretty decent spot. Now, at some point, I may have gone ahead and re-inherited this by choice. I did this on purpose, and then I essentially splintered it. They formed the Empire of Britannia, they just held too much land everywhere. They held half of Scandinavia at some point, so I went ahead and splintered it, and honestly, I'm very excited. Now, the colors, of course, are nonsense, but they have had to pick up the, the shambles that I left for them, and as you can see, Bedford has become a regional power, taking control of this entire, just forget about this, taking control of vast parts of the industrial, or rather, well, industrial is the wrong word, of the rich parts of the land. He took over the centerpieces of Scotland as well, he took over the north, not Jorvik, of course, itself, but beyond that, he took over a lot of the English Midlands, if that is, I think this is like the Midlands, right? So he took over all of this and he became a regional power with, certain associations, of course, with his neighbors. But beyond that, we have a very interesting kind of battle royale going on over here. And I really like that idea because, while they all, of course, are very overpowered, they are all Germanic pagans and they are all very well organized, they have prepared invasions, etc, etc. They're all seafaring and in EU4 would be going towards the New World. We're looking at a situation where no one is overpowered. We don't have a big blob. I'm a huge fan of this, dynasty-wise, so they're all, of course, the Germanic faith. There was a short uprising of the Scottish crown and the Scottish people, you can see it right here. Yeah, they essentially rose up successfully as Waldensians and then got crushed again just 4 years ago, actually, so the Scots definitely still alive, but not actually currently leading anywhere in Scotland itself. So, after I splintered this, I was very happy seeing them do what they did best, and that was, of course, infighting. That was very cool. I think this would translate to a super interesting story in EU4, the reunification of the English people that believe in the Germanic faith, maybe the uprising of the Scots, maybe the uprising of, as you can see, still a lot of the Christians over here. I think very interesting scenario, but of course, doesn't really translate well into EU4. Now let's talk about Estonia, because this is, I think, the elephant in the room. And as you can see right here, I made Estonia my next day. I really wanted to splinter them too. I wanted them to be in a position where, essentially Frisia, they just re-inherited that just a couple of years ago, actually. I wanted to go ahead and splinter at least Frisia, then everything that they own over here, and make this a bit of a tributary situation, because that is pretty much how I think it is organized. We have a very strong Germanic Hastings-led Estonia over here, and that is nothing, of course, that's not bad, but what I was really looking forward to was essentially that all of these individual kingdom tier titles here might just become a bit of a, not really a placeholder, but a tributary situation, a more complex vassal situation, right? I think Estonia, very interesting kingdom because they have been established for quite some time, although they are still fighting, this mess of religions. They are essentially colonizers in this region, of course, so even here you would have a very nice EU4 situation where people would fight against it. Again, like the entire story of this save, it just, when you convert this, of course, into EU4, everything that you get is just one gigantic Estonia blob. But beyond that, what happened here on the coast? France, interestingly enough, was claimed by the Sunni faithful, I think for about 50 years total. Let's take a look at this. You go from right here. Perrin, the sword of Jesus, turned over into Sunni Islam and went from 1352 until 1424. Damn, for like 70 to 80 years we had a Sunni reign over France. Quite interesting in my opinion. And then a crusade reclaimed it for the Catholic faithful. And as you can see here now, the French are ruled by all sorts of foreigners, by people that definitely, are merely the beneficiaries of a crusade and not actually local rulers. Very, very interesting scenario, because that, of course, is a very unstable realm. A realm, that has to face the Norsemen from over here in Frisia and then all along the coast. I love the way they actually did this. The Norsemen just took the coast left and right. That's all they took. They never really went any deeper into the French mainland, but they took out everything that, you know, is adjacent at least to the sea. And I really like this, because this essentially shows that France is a very, very torn nation, you know. Torn between, of course, the new Crusader lords and their populace, but also torn between defending one another, because they have to face the Northmen, and then ripping each other apart. Very interesting situation that sadly, of course, will go nowhere. Then Aquitaine, the remaining Sunni French people, you can see it right here in the overview as well. There is a very healthy Sunni kind of community going on in France itself and in Occitania, and I think those have, you know, kind of held against the Catholics for quite some time. I think the Catholic center point, you know, of course, in normal history, the Catholic core lands, I would argue, are like right over here, because those are the strongest nations, traditionally speaking. But I think in this playthrough, I think the strongest Catholic nations are more over here, because France has been a front line for quite some time. As I said, very, very interesting setup right there. France being a reborn nation under the Crusader lords, but actually being, you know, underneath the thumb of a foreign rulership. Now, what we also had was Britannia, before I splintered it, going into Iberia and trying to take it over. You can see that I went on and, you know, kind of splintered them here as well. There are still some colonies under the control of the Norse, but most of them actually no longer are there. We have the divide that we have always seen here between the Sunnis and the Yazidi, although the Yazidi have been pushed out quite a bit, and as you can see here, there are very barely any Yazidi actually left to begin with. Oh, I didn't even notice the Bektashi order over here. Interesting. Wait, why did I... How did this even work? It didn't actually lead up to them. Interesting. I can't quite identify that, but very interesting situation in Iberia, where you have, of course, the Sunnis fighting the Yazidi, and then all together them fighting the Germanic invaders. Interesting situation. The Hamawara, of course, are the former Aztec Empire, but have since become the Hawara dynasty. Oh, not even Hamawara, just Hawara. Have become the Hawara dynasty, Egyptian Sunni dynasty that rules from, I believe, Syria? Oh no, actually, they moved their capital over here into Algeria, as you can see. Bacha Rafik of the Hawara Empire. And they are a Sunni force to be reckoned with. The Aztec Empire has collapsed quite some time ago, and with that, the colonial ambitions of the Aztecs have ended entirely. But they have used the infrastructure and, you know, kind of the organization of the Aztec Empire to build a resurgent Sunni empire, because for a while there, the Sunnis were mostly gone, except, you know, down over here. But then they retook all of this. The Yazidi collapsed. The Umayyads actually had a bit of a situation, because the decadence came up to their head and essentially cost them their head by virtue of a revolution. So all of this splintered, then the Hawara swooped in and took it all over. Very interesting situation in my opinion. The Isli dynasty, in the meantime, I gave them the land and they went and conquered. As you can see here, they kind of rebuilt their own little empire, always head to head with the Hawara dynasty, of course, although, you know, quite a bit weaker, all things considered. Now, what was going on over here? Let's take a look at the rest of Europe here, I think, before we move over here. What is going on over here is essentially Lotharingia and Germany, to me personally, are a very intertwined kind of kingdom situation. If you will, I would argue these are loosely organized into a Holy Roman Empire. Not really, of course, you know, when it comes to the actual organization. There is no Holy Roman Empire title. Nobody ever founded it in this playthrough. But we are looking in a situation where, at the end of the day, they are so intertwined. They've cooperated for such a long time. In EU4, I would love to see them as a bit of a, you know, structure with maybe two emperors, if you will. You know, we have Lotharingia and then we have Germany, both Catholic. And beyond that, what we have down here is the actual core, in my opinion, of, you know, Catholicism as a whole, I think. The vanguard, Italy, has protected the Pope, has protected over here the west, of course, of Europe itself, and has held steadfast against everyone that would approach them and everyone that would fight them. King Guglielmo II the Great of Italy. They are native, an Italian dynasty that has reigned here for quite some time, as you can see. When did you die? 1313. So we're talking over 100 years. They've held it together. They've done it. Italy has been very stable and very effective in their ambitions here. And I think they are essentially detached from what I would call the northern, you know, Holy Roman Empire up here. I think this is practically an independent situation, but they are very, very close to the Pope, which I don't think these really are. I think, obviously, you know, they are close to the Pope, as close as can be, seeing as they're Catholic, but they are more kind of prone to ignore the Pope if it helps them fight the Norsemen that are everywhere at their coast, of course. Very interesting situation in my opinion, but again, if you translate this to EU4, and you will see that in a second, then, I mean, the borders, it's all just horrible. We also have the Knights Templar established with a capital over here in modern-day Austria, of course, in Innsbruck. And then we're looking at a situation where they essentially, you know, have taken over some land in France to assure that the Muslims will not resurface, and they've also just generally hold some land over here and there, so that they can make sure that the faithful of the Christian faith will never fall. They have some exclaves over here as well, but I would mostly say that those are outposts, you know, maybe preparation for a future invasion, but not that that is actually relevant, because of course those baronies are not really depicted in EU4 to begin with. Anyway, I really like the idea of these being the Christian colons instead of, you know, these being the Christian colons, the Catholic colons, because France has of course been punished this entire time, but Germany and Lotharingia have held on, they have coordinated, they have cooperated, and they have succeeded with that. But the actual closest ally to the Pope, I can only guess, is Italy here in this case, although there is no official Holy Roman Empire. Now everybody here in the East is also Catholic, very steadfast Catholics as well. Poland has held since they converted. I was very surprised by that, actually. I thought they would get pummeled by the fact that, you know, of course they converted to feudal, making themselves much weaker, but instead they went on and actually held their ground, even held their coastline right here. That is excellent to see. I mean, I really like that. They are under personal union with Bohemia and... what is this, Swabia? Wait, that can't be right. What? Oh, you're not actually a de jure, right? You're a titular title. I guess he also styles himself King of Swabia, but that is not very realistic. Austria held on under the Garda-Seidlitz dynasty. I don't actually know. Oh, look at that. Damn. They're tracing themselves to Romovans, to the latter Gallian dynasty of Tontegode. And that is a very ancient dynasty. I mean, look at that. When did you die? 884. My god, that is a long-ruling dynasty that made its way over here to Austria. Quite interesting. And then we have the actual front line. So first of all, obviously, this land here is also the front line with the, you know, Muslim faithful. But then over here, Serbia has been under attack, and, you know, I don't think there was actually a crusade for Serbia at any point, so I don't know how this ruler is German. Oh, that explains it. So, the Karlings ruled over this territory for quite some time after, and look at that, would you look at that, the Vladimirovich dynasty actually ruling in France now, and also at some point ruled over here in Miklagard, but then they had to give it up, and the Karlings stopped ruling in France, and instead the Karlings started ruling in Serbia. That is hilarious in my opinion, but now all of it is in the hands of von Katlenburg. So all of this went, you know, through a lot of the nobility's hands. The Karlings got pushed out in the west and moved into the east instead. There are of course still some Karlings, as you can see. Lotharingia itself is ruled by the Karlings. Then von Oldenburg is ruled by a Polish dynasty, or von Oldenburg. I don't know why exactly it is called. I mean, I don't know why the name is von Oldenburg. That's obviously a German city right over here, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a randomly generated name at the end of the day. And as you can see, the Karlings kind of, you know, moved around. They lost territory over here when the Muslims invaded, but instead they moved over here, lost it after a while as well. And now we're looking at a situation where Serbia is defending all of these lands from the Muslim infidels, and the Muslims are very strong, despite the fact that fairly early on, and it actually resurfaced, just for the record here, it actually resurfaced. I can't tell you who there you go. The current Caliph is Caliph Alim, as you can see right here. He's ruling over all of this, but there was a long time, and this was actually very exciting to me. There was a very long time, about 130 years, where there simply was no Muslim Caliph. Oh, actually, and look at that. There was another time right here of just about 20 years, so that wasn't too long, but there was a very long time where there simply was no caliph, so there were no jihads, nothing was going on there, and yet the Muslim faithful, and the Sunni faithful in particular, kind of expanded. You can see right here the nomads that still live in this area, the Pecheneg nomads, or are they Pecheneg? They're Khazars. The Khazars became Sunni, took over that religion, and, you know, spread it over here in the north of this area, in the north of the Black Sea. And then we have an interesting competitive angle over here in the ruins of the East Roman Empire. Remember, we destroyed that, of course. We completely demolished it. But interestingly enough, we had for the longest time a strong Catholic Anatolia. You can see the remnants right here. They still technically exist, although, okay, you know, barely any power attached to them. But as you can see, there are still some Catholics here, and then there are Sunnis everywhere else. Greece is Sunni, Sicily is Sunni, Bulgaria is Sunni. Then you have these remnants of Anatolia that are struggling to survive. Trebizond is Sunni, and all of this, of course, you know, the Hawara dynasty is also Sunni. So, Asia Minor at this point, still not actually firmly in Sunni hands. And then the Balkans also not firmly in Sunni hands, because Serbia and Italy are resisting, and the Sunnis have expanded. They have taken Miklagard itself, of course. Have they? Can't even tell. I think this is just in ruins. Yeah, Hagia Sophia has seen better days, if I'm not mistaken here. I don't think... It doesn't look... Or maybe it's just not in use. I don't actually know what this particular image here symbolizes. Maybe they actually made it into a mosque. I can't actually say. But either way, very interesting scenario here with this still being a crisis region. There were multiple crusades. There were multiple jihads going for this region. There were multiple liberators coming and freeing the, you know, vastly Catholic people over here. Paulician and Catholic, I suppose. Very, very interesting situation that has developed over here. Again, if you transform it into E4, sadly none of that will actually show itself, but you will see that in a second. But I love the situation that has established itself here because of the local rivalries, because of the strong fights, the, you know, tug of war back and forth. Very, very exciting for me to see that, you know, CK2 with the settings that we chose here, where domain is halved and where the vassal limit is also halved, which gave the AI a multitude of problems. Just for the record here, they really struggled with it. Where all of that really came to a result where this came to be a tug-of-war area for literal centuries. Very, very cool. I loved it. Beyond that, the Sunni faithful have established themselves over here, but honestly, it's only fair, because as you can see, there are still Zunists everywhere. So this core area that otherwise would be Sunni and, you know, a bit of a fallback area in case they lost the Holy Land, for example, this core area here is core Zunist. Now under Mongol leadership, but don't worry about it too much. They adapted to our, you know, Zunist reformed religion. They pray to the Hastings family as far as I'm concerned. And that is quite exciting to me because I did not think the Zunists would hold as long as they did. I mean, all the other religions that we did reform didn't hold that long, but now we have Zabulistan, we have Oghuz, all of those keeping and standing together. And actually kind of, you know, they have taken over the nomadic steppes that were also Zunist. If you remember when I released all of this, this was essentially the Zunist wall of nomadic steppes that didn't succumb to the bloodthirsty Tengri faith. Very exciting to see that Oghuz has survived and expanded over here. I still don't quite know why the Mongol Empire collapsed. I think it was because at the end of the day what happened was, you know, you had the Mongols no longer actually be in charge by the Mongol dynasty, by the Temujin dynasty. There you go. Let me just check this out here, right? You can see this empire collapsed as soon as there was somebody else on the throne on the very same day. So I'm thinking maybe as soon as there's no one on its throne that is of the Borjigin dynasty, it just collapses. But I'm honestly not entirely sure how that went down. Either way, very cool that they did collapse, and very cool of the Zunist kingdom to exist despite having been conquered by the Mongols. And what I also want to address is this. This is so super cool. If Estonia wasn't so big and centralized, if it was more a tributary relationship, it would be even cooler. But the Jomsvikings are exactly in between the Germanic frontline and the Catholic frontline. Because if these are the Catholic core lands, which I believe them to be, instead of, you know, these over here, as I said multiple times now, then you have the Catholic expansion over here kind of countering the Norse expansion that you have with Estonia. I love that so much. That's so cute. They kind of made their way into here and protected the Catholic faithful that lived in, you know, modern day Belarus and Russia, I suppose. Very, very cool scenario because you have this kind of 3 times split thing. You have the Sunnis down here, then you have the Catholics, and then you have the Germanics colonizing the east. And you can see there was a lot of Catholicism here as well, even some Suomen Nusko, if that is how you really pronounce it, which it probably isn't, but I really like this kind of triple split, I guess. I don't want to, you know, split Estonia too much, but I think if you wanted to do this into an EU4 conversion, you would have to split it and just make it into a bit of a tributary, maybe a March relationship, you know, that sort of stuff. And down here, the Islits and the Badrids conquered, and they essentially took over the entire region, which I think is fair. I mean, that just, you know, kind of makes sense at some point. Rajasthan actually formed itself. Very, very cool, because this is a Sunni empire right over here in the center of India, and, well, I mean, you know, everything into the north here. They are currently in an open rebellion, which of course, you know, sucks. I think the converter doesn't really cope with that, but don't worry about it too much. This is very interesting because it kind of mirrors the Delhi Sultanate that, you know, was established, of course, historically. And down here, then you have a lot of resistance from the Hindus, and the Hindus are actually currently completely destroying this empire, as you can see. 99% in favor of Maharaja Ishpala of the Vemulevada Chalukya kingdom, and this is to liberate the kingdom of Andhra, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there you go, from Sunni overlordship. Very, very cool. I was never in this entire playthrough in India, but they really created a situation where they are infighting, where they have big front lines, where they have big cultural and religious divides. I'm a huge fan of this. Very, very well done. I think that is the game self-regulating. Very interesting. And then over here we have Utsang also being Sunni. So all of this essentially Sunni. It used to be Buddhist for a long time. I would expect that, you know, there may be some Buddhist rebellions in EU4 that establish their own little realms. None of this seems too stable, but not at this time, of course. Then the Chinese took just so much. Let's not talk about this. This is a bit of nonsense. We still have some Norse nomads here, as you can see. We got some Mongols, of course, most of the time, because that's just how nomads work in this game. But beyond that, that is the general overview, I think. That is the general overview of this entire gameplay. Let's take a look at the religions just in general. Maybe we can point out some funny things here and there. We got Yazidi, of course, very active. The Catholics had a huge Cathar problem at some point, but as you can see, it has been mostly eradicated. The Italians still struggling a bit with it, but most of the Cathars have been, you know, kind of pushed out to the British Isles that are, of course, not even under Catholic supervision, but under Germanic supervision, and then over here as well into the Germanic colonized area. The Shia faith has risen up a couple of times, has also always lost, so they don't really exist in this world, I suppose. They have fallen much like the Orthodox Church has fallen. I mean, me destroying the East Roman Empire that I did, and let's be real, I left them this entire area, but me destroying it really was a death sentence to Orthodoxy. You can see some Orthodox over here, but there's more Bogomilists, etc., than there is Orthodoxy. Very interesting. There are some pockets still, Romover, but I mean, that's just pretty much nonsense. Now, culture-wise, not too much changed. We just have Norse pretty much everywhere. Of course, here, the Norse settlers that we brought from the steppes, then the Norse over here as well. And this has mostly become English at this point. There, of course, are Scottish and Irish still available, but so are, of course, the Norse. The Norwegians and Swedish are kind of like still split with the Norse culture. Usually this is supposed to all become, you know, Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish, but there are still Norse around everywhere. And I think, I mean, we're ruling over this, just for the record here. We are Germanic, of course. I don't see too many other interesting locations to be pointed out here. Maybe governments? Not really. None of this is really surprising in my opinion. Maybe we can... Okay, yeah, there's one more thing that I want to say, one sad thing. You know when I pointed out that in Ascalon, our dynasty had ruled for so long, they all died to the Black Death. They just went. There you go. The plague, and then it's all over. Sad. Very sad. But they held on for so damn long. Very exciting to see. Now, let's walk towards the end together, shall we? It has been a wild ride. You know, it's taken so much time to get this done, and in an exciting way. You know, I really enjoyed every single bit of this. I really enjoyed every single bit of this journey, because I've never done a run where we just have been this incredibly crazy when it comes to expanding it. Ogres just became Serbia, but don't worry about it too much. I really liked it. I really enjoyed this playthrough. I hope so did many, or most, or all of you. I really thought that it was quite fun to, you know, go around all the world and just experience so many different ways of playing the game. We even made it to become a nomad. Oh man, that was just wild. I can't believe that actually worked. I was mentally prepared to just go all the way south and then from India to hop back into Africa. And there you go. The achievement has popped. It's all over. Let's just take a quick look at all of the rulers that we had. I mean, let's not forget anyone here. Jarl Hastin the Viking, of course. It is he that started it all. And then we have King Ragnar the Victorious, the one that declared himself the god of the Zunists. Then King Eric the Loyal. Dumb nickname even to this day, but he is the one that pushed us into Tibet and made all of this happen. What happened afterwards? Queen Ingfrid, the Sword of Drala, Jacy, and then Skuld. Both of these made it possible that we could even become nomad, which we then of course did with Berzi, Slayer of the Pecheneg, and then Grimr the Dreaded. He was the one that established the Tengri, the bloodthirsty faith, the absolute crazy person. Sumalithi is the one that destroyed the East Roman Empire and gave me the achievement for winning the 4th Crusade. And then we have a horse and another horse. I love that horse with a mask. That's just hilarious. I think those are the ones that we moved. Yeah, there we have Fosco, the Sword of Jarilo, and then King Glitterhoof. Those are the ones that brought us into the British Isles and made all of that happen. Blessed Guntard the Great. I think he actually gave us a bloodline, didn't he? They look all this. Look at Glitterhoof's, the Stormforge and Blessed Guntard literally looking the same, by the way. King Richard, the Sword of Thor. Can't remember. Honestly, these names. I think, right, I remember King Edward, I actually said, oh, I want to play a blind man, and then he immediately died. And then after that, of course, we primarily, you know, kind of sat around for those 100 Frisian years. I think that was quite fair. And then King Robert Cial, the secret behind that name, by the way, is that I wanted Robert Cial to be our martial character, which never happened. I wanted to do the Prodigious 5 achievement, but that aside, afterwards with Robert Cial I, we moved to Sardinia and Corsica, and from there on out, we just waited. I hope that you enjoyed this series as much as I did. This was absolutely legendary, the way it was done when it comes to, you know, what was possible thanks to the game's mechanics. So take a quick look at this. Essentially, I changed the map. I un-Ironmanned the save after I, you know, took the Iron Man save and I put it into the converter, into the EU4 converter, the official one and the fan-made one, and I was not happy with either result. So I decided to un-Ironman the save, which I did. Then I started editing it. I cleared up some borders. I made something more sensical. For example, Moldavia, which used to be Greece, is now independent, but it's on its own. Then Greece, you know, I came out as the Greece king who was a secret Yazidi, as an official Yazidi, and now we're going to continue onwards with that. I put it into the official converter and into the unofficial converter, and I actually like the result from the official converter a bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this un-Iron Man save into the Crusader Kings 2 video description. So somewhere in this video description you will find the link to the save, and I will also put the mod that you are about to see, because I created the mod, you know, from this CK2 save that I un-Iron Man and then edited the hell out of it. As you can see, so many things are different from, you know, before I showed you this Iron Man or un-Iron Man save. Let me just quickly show you. This is the EU4 map. You can see there is now a Holy Roman Empire. I wish it had the name German Confederation even here in EU4, but it doesn't. It has the name, you know, German Holy Roman Empire. That's okay. We can live with that, I think. And as you know, the official converter makes it so that, you know, big empires like Italy, for example, get split off with some vassals just to slow them down. So this is actually all Italy. Then this is all Serbia, but Pest is one of the vassals. Silesia, for example, is part of Poland, and they will absorb them in time. But I cleaned up the borders, and we have a pretty decent starting save here this time. Honestly, when I look at this, I'm quite hopeful. I think this looks quite nice. I think this is actually a playable EU4 save. I don't think anybody is totally overpowered. I don't think anybody is totally underpowered. I, in particular, love this situation where Anatolia is this, you know, giant, this Sunni giant, but then all around it are Catholic principalities. That is so cute. That really makes it so, you know, these guys are really in a competition for Asia Minor, of course, surrounded then by the bigger Bulgaria and Greece. Greece being Yazidi, Bulgaria being Sunni, and then, of course, also Syria. But I think there's a chance here, for example, for just some Catholic work. Now, this save translated Sardinia and Corsica into tribal kingdom. I'm not quite sure that I believe that, you know, Sardinia and Corsica is to be a tribal kingdom, but here we are. Let's just load into it. Let's just take a quick look at this. I haven't played EU4 in ages, I will tell you that much, but I like this conversion. The conversion that we had from 769 to 1453, I did not like that one. I thought that one was very, very bad. I actually, like, I looked at it and I was like, that is horrendous, but this one is quite decent. We have a Holy Roman Empire, everything is going on, and then we have this cute Sardinia and Corsica, and I didn't even know, man, but you can pick deities. That's super cool. I could pick, for example, Freya or Thor. Very, very exciting. You can also, of course, this was the plan. This is why I created Sardinia and Corsica, essentially. There are two things here. We have an actual Muslim province over here in Corsica, because I left it to be Muslim. It's Yazidi. Well, I mean, Yazidi is, you know, not really Muslim, but don't worry too much about it, about the terms there. And then we also, very interestingly enough, can, of course, become... Wait a minute, I can't become... Oh, because I'm tribal. I probably can't become a... Why can't I become a pirate nation? Is it because I am tribal? Honestly, I don't know how it works. I haven't played this game in 100 years. Why am I a damn tribal kingdom? Well, either way, if you want to edit this, if you want to edit the CK2 save, if you want to edit this mod, links are in the description. The actual EU4 mod will be on the workshop, and you can check it out yourself right over there. Thank you for watching. And of course, I want to thank the members of the channel that are making videos such as this one possible, and that are making series such as this one possible, to begin with, namely the Barons, Aaron, Stefan, the Richest T, Snywolf, Emma Mello, Thomas, Locklin, Mitchell, MFV, and Florian. Then, of course, also the Counts, Shifty, Wombat, and Kazen, and last but not least, the absolutely beautiful Dukes, Suspicious Dark Nathan, Knight of Squires, Kenneth, Lexo, Eric, and Aiden. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you later. Alligator.